So we're up to the last part of today's summit. I hope you're still energized for the discussion panel we have, together with a couple of partners of the event itself. So we have Phill, all the way from the UK, Lawrence, all the way from the UK, and Nick, all the way from
Hi
the
guys.
south of Holland.
Yeah. Further than the UK. Oh, this is cozy.
How are you guys doing?
Good now, yeah. It's
Yeah?
a very nice sofa. I got some comments on it from our team. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be wondering where you got the sofa from, actually, when we were talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not our office. I wished. We can ask the Molly team later. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about how, let's say, global brands utilize data and actually also utilize tools which are data-driven to increase their growth. And especially if the audience here has some questions, just hop in and ask your questions. We also try to dive into some of the tips and tricks with Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up. Yeah, so maybe just dive into the first question. So as most of you've known, last year there was a small pandemic worldwide. And I think it changed everything for everyone in the good or the bad way. But I'm really curious to hear from all of you how, let's say, the start of COVID looked like at your company, like the day it hit. So Phill.
Yeah. So yeah, as everybody here is obviously aware, it changed a lot of people's shopping habits and brought a lot of people for the first time to shopping online for things they probably didn't know they could shop for online. So we had a team internally that was looking at our own customer database and really just trying to understand the trends, the different industries, what was happening, what were people feeling. And you're working with 265,000 brands globally. There's a lot there. So I think the first step was just to understand there was a lot of information brands were still trying to figure out themselves. And where we're focused on the communication channels, it's a great opportunity for brands to just over communicate on what's impacting them, whether it's shipping delays, a lot of different things that they really were trying to figure out in the moment. And we were also, on the other end of that, trying to figure out how to help them. So I think a lot of that really boiled down to being able to communicate with empathy. In order to do that, you really have to know your customers. You have to know a lot more about them, their shopping behaviors. They're basically just trying to meet them where they're at, which was at home.
Yeah.
And everybody was trying to do the same thing at the time, just trying to adapt. And over the past, I want to say almost 2 years now, there's definitely going to be a lot of this that sticks around. It's getting more competitive for brands to stand out, and the communication is going to be a big part of that. So how do you, stay above your competition? How do you go into new markets? As a digital-first brand. So a lot of that boils down to really understanding a lot about your customers and hopefully a lot of information that they see value from providing you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just thinking that I know these guys quite well, but probably you guys don't know them that well.
I was
So
also
maybe
thinking about
we
a first
start with a
introduction.
small introduction.
Yeah, well,
Let's start with you, Phill.
Sure. So Klaviyo is a marketing automation and customer data platform. We work with over 265,000 brands globally. We're based in Boston, Massachusetts. We have a team in London and a team in Sydney and Los Angeles as well. And we're really focused on helping brands create amazing experience that help drive revenue. The way we think about the platform, it really boils down to 3 key areas. The first being the marketing and communication side of things. So how can we understand, the best way to communicate with people, whether it's email or SMS, and just learning a lot more about them throughout that process and hopefully building a relationship. The second is having a customer database to do that. So being able to connect with a variety of different sources, pulling data into one place, and obviously being able to use it in a really interesting, but also, again, personal way. And obviously that's where, partners like Phill are great. They know the big picture. They know where the data fits into your journey. And the last pillar is really about how do we create the learning tools. So for brands that are just getting started, how do we help them get more from their marketing tech stack? So how do we help them, just get started, really? So it's basics, just how to build a web shop, how to connect these different data sources, how to gather data. And obviously, as they get more and more advanced, how do we continue to help them learn, go into new markets, do a lot of different things in segmentation, and again, meet them where they're at throughout that journey. So that's, it's a bit about us.
Thanks. And then we have Lawrence.
Cool. So, hi everyone. I'm Lawrence. I'm a partner manager here at Yotpo. I actually joined 2 days before the first lockdown in the UK, so I'm consider myself Yotpo's first COVID baby. Yotpo is an e-commerce marketing platform, and we have tools for reviews, visual user-generated content, loyalty and referrals, and SMS marketing, just a couple. And they all share a data layer and work hand in hand to help brands build trust on site, harness their community, and drive better retention through more personalized, powerful marketing. The strength of the platform, though, really is how the data kind of is passed between these different tools to enable brands to kind of automate and personalize their marketing at scale. In my opinion, that's like the future of e-commerce, although I may be slightly biased.
Great.
That's nice, Lawrence. Thanks. I'm Nick, 30 years old, and we're just having a puppy in house. So I saw those big lights, and I think you can see that I have some sleepless nights. I'm all the way down from the south, just an hour with the train. Brought something nice from the local bakery because we are really Burgundian people in the south. And I started also, like Lawrence, during COVID last year, somewhere in May. So that was kind of hard because I'm a partner manager, and my days are really cool because I spend a lot of time with agencies and partners like Martijn at Phill. And together we help merchants by making shipping as easy as possible. That's, I think, the most clear way to explain it. And we do that by connecting your e-commerce systems, your ERPs, your WMS systems with carriers in a shipping platform. And you can go a little bit out of the box with our shipping API. Because with when COVID hits, we saw that a lot of new merchants were coming to the e-commerce business, like B2B brands, and they have a rather complex tech stack. They use WMS systems, ERP systems. So it was, you can go out of the box with Sendcloud as well. You're active in 8 countries. Since last year, September, also in the UK. Pretty cool. And we work from our sunny office in Eindhoven. Yeah.
Great. Thanks. So now we did the introduction. We can go over to you, Lawrence. I'm curious to hear how was the COVID period for you and how it impacted
I think
Yotpo's business?
a lot of similarities with what Phill said, but there were kind of phases of it. The first was like, oh my God, what's just happened? Things are about to change, we're not really sure. So there was a brief pause, but that quickly changed, right? Brands realized that people's shopping habits were changing online more and more. And so suddenly it became about becoming optimized for that and making sure that your site was converting customers at the best rate possible. As that progressed, the brands who were lucky enough to do that well at the start, that suddenly changed to being other brands are going to start doing the same things. How can we turn that growth or that spike in sales into sustained growth? So retention initiatives, getting customers on like a high impact channel like SMS or part of a loyalty program or retention initiatives. Those are the kind of 3 phases that we saw.
Yeah, and especially because since the competition online grew enormously with brands who never maybe bought advertising space online, the focus should really be on extending the customer lifetime value, right?
Exactly. It's much cheaper to retain a customer than to acquire a new one.
Yeah. And how was it at Sendcloud?
The biggest change we saw was when COVID hits, the e-commerce market, of course, exploded. And back in the day, we were more focused on the hardcore B2C brands, the more smaller brands. But now, during COVID, we moved a bit more mid-market and up-market. And I think the biggest change is that we try to be more flexible for our users. What I just said, we see a rather complex tech stack. They not only have Shopify, that means that our platform should do more than only connecting Shopify with a PostNL or just driving with DHL to Germany. The other biggest change we saw was we were back in the days, we were more in the logistic part, but with highly demanding customers and merchants, we are doing more and more in the checkout, right? Because I think 70% of the people leave a web shop in the checkout because it's not fast enough, shipping costs are not right. So we try to do more and more in the checkout by offering a nominated day, delivering on service points, but also look at new carriers like a Budbee or Trunkers It's so cool that you can just order something and it's there at night or the same day. So yeah, that's the biggest change, being more flexible to our end users.
And what did you see at Yotpo and Klaviyo in terms of what we just talked about, that cost per acquisition went up? Did you see a big increase in the use of email campaigns or SMS campaigns?
I think to start, it's obviously getting more and more expensive and difficult to really keep up with a lot of these acquisition costs on channels like Facebook. Not to mention, the different headlines you see around data privacy. There's a lot of, I guess, mixed reviews, and a lot of people that probably have strong opinions are still using Facebook. So it's probably not the clearest sense around how things are. But obviously, for a lot of brands who weren't as established or really trying to really build a retention strategy, it starts with having a direct relationship and owning that relationship. So obviously a big way to do that is through email. It's pretty much the most established and probably been around the longest in terms of a communication channel. So yeah, it's definitely here to stay, and it's obviously a big reason why a lot of brands were able to weather the past year. And obviously with the whole conversation around data privacy, there is a spotlight on that. And so as much as there's a lot of really good strategies around social media and how that could work in that acquisition channel, but at the end of the day, you're kind of renting that mind share, right? You're not owning that conversation. It's not something that you have full control over. So there's still some risk in that. So obviously email has been a big leverage point for a lot of brands who are doing at least a good job with it and seeing opportunities to do more.
Yeah, I can definitely say the same for SMS. I think one of the big changes that we saw, and it speaks to my personal experience, was that mobile shopping increasingly became the most popular channel for people to buy products from. And it's the same for me. All of a sudden, at some point in the pandemic, I was like, I buy everything on my mobile now. And I couldn't quite tell you why, and I wonder if it's the same for everyone else. But that then meant that the focus then shifted to how can we communicate to customers on the device that is their preferred shopping channel, the device that they always have on them, their mobile phones. And so, yeah, we saw a massive demand and increase in the demand for SMS marketing.
Cool. Exciting also, because SMS marketing is it's relatively new. I think for a lot of brands we talk to, it's quite underutilized. Can maybe also be sometime a bit, how do you say it, intrusive, or how do you see that?
Yeah, I think in the UK at least, like, we're all very privacy conscious, and that's a good thing. And SMS has this fear of being like a bit spammy at times, but the way in which that can be overcome is making sure that your messaging is really tailored to your recipients. It's personalized with whatever data that you have available. So it always carries some sort of value or some sort of benefit to the customer, and so it's a message they want to receive. To use an example, loyalty and SMS works really nicely hand in hand. If I was to say to you as your favorite brand that you're, I don't know, 10 euros away from a new VIP tier and 20% off your next purchase, that's a text message that I wouldn't mind receiving.
Yeah.
So yeah, personalized.
So it also depends on the customer you're sending the messages to. So you could segment. For the more loyal customers, you build up a more personal relationship.
And not just through loyalty. As Louis from Gorgeous said earlier, you can use that data from any host of sources, right? It could be from your loyalty program. It could be wherever you have that information. It could be the sentiment of their reviews, or if they're opening a lot of customer service tickets, you might want to speak to that customer in a different way. And SMS is a channel you can do that on.
I think SMS is still a strong channel, right? Every year we do research on the 8,000 e-shoppers in Europe, and we also ask them, hey, what's your favorite channel to receive track and trace? Because the shipping experience is becoming more and more important to get a repeating customer. We're all looking at Coolblue, how they are doing it, and we want to achieve the same as the local heroes. And we see that the second biggest channel how to receive track and trace is still SMS. So it sounds a bit old, right? SMS, who is texting each other, that's crazy, but it's still a really good channel, also in the track and trace part.
Yeah. And if we go a step back to COVID, we had some clients who had some challenges with supply chain related.
Yeah.
Because we had COVID, then we had the boat on the Suez Canal, and I think now the price of containers went up like 10 times. Does it also translates back to cost for you with Sendcloud if you is the supply chain on, let's say, the last mile also distorted?
I don't have a lot of experience with containers, if I'm truly honest. But what I can say about what happens in the supply chain, a lot of new players found our way to our platform. We see a lot of B2B players. They were screwed, right? Because the retailer was closed, and that means, okay, shit, we need to pass the retailer, and we need to go directly to the consumer. And then we saw a little bit of a chain conflict. And I think the most important part, if you are a B2B player and you go D2C, that the whole shipping experience to a customer and the carriers you are working with last mile carriers, it's a whole different ballgame, right? Customers are highly demanding on the shipping experience with track and trace, but also how easy is it to return something, right? With a B2B process, you're not talking about that. They just do a daily or monthly order and you have a relationship with them, but with a customer, it's totally different, right? They're on their phone by night, seeing a lot of web shops. So if they don't hit a track and trace within 5 minutes, they're gonna scream at home like, hey, where is it? I'm gonna call, can you call for me? My girlfriend asks always, hey, I didn't receive anything, please can you call? No, it's 8 at night, I'm not gonna call them, maybe it's there tomorrow, I don't know. So yeah, we saw some big changes in going from B2B to D2C.
And yeah, coming up, we have the Black Friday and Cyber Monday weekend. I think it's only 3 weeks away. And it's great to have you guys here for all the insight tips on any of the fields where you're a specialist in. Maybe starting with you, Nick.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
what does everyone here need to prepare for in terms of shipment options for the Black Friday Cyber Monday event?
Yeah, that's quite hard because it's such a rapidly growing business that the carriers are under a huge pressure, right? We saw last year that I think 80% of the parcels were shipped on time during peak season. A lot of people worked with a Dutch carrier and they didn't came on time. Oh, that's nice, a Coke.
Thank you.
I'm thirsty. So I think the biggest tip is do not rely on just one carrier. Maybe offer
It's like a Coke ad.
maybe
Product
offer
placement,
or
huh?
drink a Coke. Maybe offer a multi-carrier strategy, right? Also, we saw in the research that the speed of delivery, it's one of the, I think it's the most important one, right? We are really impatient people, especially in the Benelux. We not wait any more than 4.2 days or somewhere. So do not rely just on one carrier because the pressure is huge on them, and offer a nominated day or a next or same day delivery option. I think that's the most important one for peak season, because yeah, if you don't compete with the speed of delivery, you're having just a one-time customer instead of a repeating customer.
And also, if you look at the big spike of orders you're probably getting during the Black Friday Cyber Monday weekend, what can you advise in terms of returns or the return process?
Yeah, returns is something hard to get our heads around. Some people say, okay, we're gonna hide it on the web shop so people won't find it and they won't return it. In my opinion, it's the other way around. My advice would be like offer a really great experience on returning. Make it a bit tailor-made, make it as smooth and accessible as possible. Make it also digital, where people can just use their track and trace number, their zip code, they run through a digital one, you do a paperless return and you're there. So I think that's the most important one. Also use data, right? Because for a lot of merchants, you see the return when it's at the front of your warehouse, and then you think, "Fuck, it's already there." So it's hard to get traction and grip on returns.
So you mean that you request the customer to let the company know that the return is on its way. So with a return portal.
Yeah, make sure you do a really smooth and frictionless return process and update on either of every step in the way, right, of the logistic process. So not okay, you can return, but also give them an update. Hey, just entered our warehouse. We will do a refund within 5 days. So also always think about the frictionless ways to offer returns.
I can maybe speak to that as a consumer as well, right? It just takes one bad experience and that will ruin your confidence in the brand, and it might mean that you'll try out someone else the next time you want something. So, like, lean into it, take ownership of the returns. That's definitely something that appeals to me.
I once had it with mates.com. I will
Yeah.
never buy from
What happened?
mates.com again. It was a real hell on earth
Yeah.
to buy a product and get it sent back. Well, they even didn't ship it yet. So
That's crazy, yeah. And
it was, but that's like 6 years ago, and I'm still mad about it.
yeah. Still mad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what we also actually see is that almost 50% of the people, before they go shopping, they check the return policy, right? To give you a great example, when we are in the summer and we go on holiday, my girlfriend always orders some nice dresses. When we're going out for dinner, I want to look beautiful for you. Great. And then she orders like 10 dresses and she's fitting them at home, and she's always returning 8 or 9 of them. So make sure it's out there, right? And make it frictionless, because people will go to a competitor because there's so much where they can order.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for the
Yeah.
advice. And if we talk about SMS marketing for the holiday season coming up, what is like top advice you can give on maybe for brands who don't use it yet,
Yeah.
and also for the brands who already use it?
I mean, it's not really going to rock the boat, but I think in terms of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, being super organized, knowing like the campaigns you're going to be running, scheduling them in advance, and taking off the stress when it comes to D-Day is one of the first things that I'd advise. But I'd also think about the long term. You're going to see a spike in traffic, you're going to see a spike in sales. How do you turn that into sustained growth? Setting up something like or a number of different subscriber growth tools for a high power channel like SMS, or maybe getting sign-ups for a loyalty program, turning those first-time trialists into loyal customers. That's going to be how you grow as a business and kind of really use the opportunity from Black Friday, Cyber Monday to its fullest.
And what would be a typical automation you would say that's a must-have?
It depends on the customer, right? But if you know that a customer has bought a hero product but maybe not some additional items, that could be something to hit them with an offer for. Or if you know that they, I don't know, maybe I'm not speaking to my most personal experience, but like if they're buying from like as a beauty brand like moisturizer or something to exfoliate their skin, and you know that that's their preference, you send them some offers around those preferences in the build up to the campaign, make it as relevant as possible.
And for email, Phill?
Yeah, I think it probably starts at the same place, right? Staying organized. And I think hopefully, we're a few weeks out, everybody's had a few months of preparation. So I think as a starting point, you have all these different data sources coming in. You have your shopping history, you have on-site behavior, you have all these other tools, loyalty, reviews, all these things that we can ingest really easily. So you should be able to build out personas. You should understand who your VIPs are, who are the people that are window shopping and maybe going to do nothing, who are the people that are really going to take advantage of discounts. And throughout that, you can start to break up and create a campaign, create a plan that your team is ready for. So by the time you're actually ready to go out there and start sending out emails and you're ready for all the traffic to come to your website, you know how to communicate with each one of those customers. So you can start to filter out people based on preferences, based on things that they may or may not have done on the website. And all of that just makes for a better experience. And to Lawrence's point, the retention becomes a lot easier because you have that seed in there to bring them back. Because I think that's obviously, you're going to have a lot of one-time shoppers at this time of year. There are a lot of people that are going to try you out for the first time. If your shipping's delayed, if a number of things can't go wrong, if your support desk isn't working, there are a lot of things that could go wrong, but it's also an opportunity to make sure that you're clear with each customer and kind of where they fit in, and you can have a relationship from there.
What's a typical email flow you say, like, this is the one you should set up tonight?
Yeah, I think especially around Black Friday, I think a lot of what we see customers doing is, whether it's a browse abandonment flow, which is basically if they're looking at specific products, if they're looking at a certain number of times, it's a high intent, that's a high intent activity. It means they're obviously interested. If they've opted in, whether it's email or SMS or other, channels that you're using, it's a great way to target them. So having a browse abandonment flow is a really good one.
So instead of only doing the cart abandoned flow, also the browse abandoned flow.
Yeah.
So if someone keeps coming back to the same page,
Yeah,
then
exactly.
show it with a small discount.
Exactly. A cheeky tagline or something else.
I have one more to actually add to that on the point of segmentation. One of the advantages of SMS is that you can actually be conversational with it. So you can actually ask your customers what would they be most interested in seeing an offer for, and then use that to tailor the marketing that you send out to them further down the line or closer to the big day.
Yeah. And Nick, so you know the how do you say that? Most probably after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, there are more returns than than
Than
you
ever.
usually have.
Yeah.
But if we look at the period after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, what would be an advice to bring the return rates down?
That's a good question. If you look at returns, it's also it's still a big hassle, right? To make it really good. As my previous advice, I will go for a really frictionless, smoothless digital portal, right? But also after peak season, try to use data to really analyze what's going on out there. What's the most common return reason? How can I fix that? Can we add more return reasons? Which carrier is the most returns used? Are people using a service point or your brick and mortar store? So I think it's good after peak season to really take a deep dive in the analyzing part to make it even stronger the upcoming year.
And does Sendcloud also offer insights in that data, or how?
Yeah, it's crazy how many data we are fetching during a day, right? We our operation teams, they're true data magicians. It's crazy that I'm sitting here. They're way smarter to talk about data, but I will try. And we are fetching a lot of data, and we try to figure out, okay, what's relevant and what's not relevant, right? Because data is a hard term to get your head around, because you need to make data used for merchants so they can really use it. What we do is we created like an analytic dashboard where we fetching the data and we will present it like really easy, understandable. Okay, what are my most common return rules? What are my most common return reasons? What are my average return cost? How to handle a cross-border return, because it's also kind of hard, right? If you're selling in Germany or France and somebody would like to return it, how to do it with which carrier? And we make that insightful in the analytics dashboard in the Sendcloud panel.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it's open to anyone to use Sendcloud.
It's open for anyone, but we see especially the brands that are a step further than the MKB, just the mid-market ones. And internally, we use our customer success managers for that to handle that, right? But because you can see data, but to actually do something with it, it's kind of hard. So we help bigger brands with that. Yeah.
Do you have an API connection for that?
We have. We see that we go. All of my cases this quarter, they're all out of the box, right? Normally, back in the days, you just connect Shopify with PostNL. Awesome, we have a new customer. But now we see, yeah, Nick, I have an ERP or WMS system, and I want to fetch back the return status to my ERP because that's my single source of truth. For that, we use our API. We have a return API where you can just go out of the box and build something with your custom ERP or your own build, maybe Frankenstein tech stack, I don't know. So yeah, you can do that, definitely.
Okay, great. Good to know.
Yeah.
And we also touched a bit upon data privacy. I think for today we haven't dedicated like a full talk about it, because I think it's still something most brands don't really want to think about, or they think we use the tools and it's all fully data secure or data private. So how does Klaviyo cater to data privacy, and what have you seen what has changed in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think the brands that are doing the best at this are really focused on something we talk a lot about internally, which is called customer first data. And it really boils to two parts of it really, but I think the first is, there's zero-party data, which is basically customers are willing to share this information with you. It's coming in on sign-up forms, preference pages. It's basically coming directly from a customer. There's no friction between you and that client, so it's a lot of really good information you can gather from them. And you obviously have to treat that with a duty of care. You have to use it for something that creates value, right?
And that's the order data as well, sign-up data.
We would call that first-party data.
That's
So the
first
first-party data would be coming directly from your website and other channels, whether it's integrations or things that you're using. So that's obviously information that customers, if they've opted into marketing, you're using it correctly, right? You're supposed to use that information, create a better experience next time you come back. That's obviously where the retention fits in. So between the two of those, zero-party data and first-party data, there's a lot of things that brands that are, again, thinking about this the right way, they're protecting against the next change with how Google might change their algorithm, how Facebook's going to be perceived in the market, how Apple changes their, how they treat different types of, in-app messaging and different things like that, right? There's a lot of areas of risk for a brand, so you can protect yourself a lot of different ways by just knowing that this is data that I own. It's something that I have control over, and obviously I'm using it the right way.
And so you have the zero-party data, first-party data, and the third-party data?
I don't think we covered that. We were trying to figure out, but that's basically all the creepy stuff happening out there, right? That's a lot of the stuff that if it's bought information from somewhere else, there's a lot of information that sits out there, and it's not really meant for marketers in terms of what you're trying to do as being a direct-to-consumer brand. So yeah, there's a lot of data out there. I think that's where it gets a bit murky in terms of where the information's coming from, and obviously what you can do with it, because it's not always as accurate, it's not always as useful, and there's a lot of different things in there that you kind of rely on where they're coming from and if it's a channel you trust.
And it's also, or I think it's quite hard for a company like Klaviyo operating worldwide. Like in the US, you have different rules than in the EU and the UK, I think.
Yeah.
And how does Klaviyo handles that? Is it fully compliant?
Yeah, so we have a whole team of in-house deliverability and compliance teams. So really what they're focused on is how do we educate customers on best practices. A lot of times customers come in, they may have an existing email program. They may be thinking about their database a certain way, but after looking at it, maybe it's, they're not as, up to compliance as they may think. It's also in terms of what you're trying to accomplish with deliverability and compliance. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that you really don't have control over. You're just kind of relying on the customer, and how they react to your messaging. So you have to think about your tools, think about the data, and you obviously have a duty of care when customers offer this up. You should be creating value, but obviously if you're sending too many emails or if you're spamming people, everybody in this room has shopped online and had a bad experience that you're pretty quick to hit that spam button or complain if something doesn't feel right to you. So it's on the brands to really own that, and if you don't have a policy in place, obviously that's a chance to really think about that. Speak to legal counsel, somebody who's obviously going to help you advise on what am I looking at in terms of my database and what can I do with it. I think that's obviously where, as a brand, you have to think about this thing, data privacy.
Thanks. And I think today we've talked a bit about how can we make data actionable. How does your tool cater to this? How can the merchants make the data actionable?
So we're really lucky to have an amazing network of partners, and I think just having an open API and having the approach we've got today with the number of partners we work with. If you look at our integrations library, you should probably see a few names familiar: Yotpo, gorgeous, Sendcloud, one to be worked on. But there's a lot of things out there that for us, we're just making that data from other from other vendors that brands are already using a lot more actionable, so you can start to communicate a lot more personal messages across email, SMS, push notifications, on-site personalization. It becomes a lot clearer because all this data can go to Klaviyo, which we think of it kind of being the brain, and then you can communicate across those other channels more effectively. So yeah, making it actionable, I think, starts with just knowing how to connect those dots, and kind of where I started, throughout that journey, as you introduce different types of integrations, there's a lot of resources to help you make better use of it. So how do I think about using a loyalty program effectively, right? How do I think about using a support desk effectively? If somebody leaves a bad review, has a bad experience, I want to make sure I communicate to that person the right way. Probably not the best opportunity to send them a blast promotion, right? There may be other ways to communicate with them if they're having a bad time. So those are the kind of things that I think a lot of brands that are, again, doing it well are thinking about when they think about their tech stack.
And how is that with Yotpo?
I think we're lucky enough to natively have across all of our different platforms access to so much data on how your customers are engaging with your brand. Also from your e-commerce platform like Shopify, for example, but from a reviews perspective, knowing if a customer has left a review, the average sentiment of that review, how they're answering custom questions as to how they're using your products. From a loyalty perspective, if someone's a VIP, their purchase frequency, their lifetime spend, if they're buying from one or multiple categories, if they've ever referred a friend, and then other information you can pick up through conversational SMS. I might use an example to actually paint kind of how this can work better, but let's say that Phil's a VIP customer of yours, and he's bought 15 times from your brand in the past year. He's bought from 4 or 5 different categories, but he has never referred a friend and he's never left a review. Let's say that I'm a non-VIP, as sadly is more often not the case. I've bought twice from the brand over the past year or so, and I've bought from one category and I've left a 3-star review. The actions that are going to be valuable to your business from Phill and from myself are going to be entirely different, right? Phil's shown that he's a loyal customer. If he was to write a review, that would probably be quite high converting, a nice testimonial. It would also make his opinion feel valued and hopefully continue to grow that loyalty of his. Whereas for me, it'd be maybe like, how can we get Lawrence to behave a bit more like Phill? Can we encourage him with a double points campaign to purchase from multiple categories? Or a punch card campaign to hit 5 purchases beyond which we start to see genuine loyalty? We have access to all of these data points within our platform, and then the tools within the platform themselves to actually kind of incentivize and encourage those behaviors from your client.
And how's that with Sendcloud? How do you make the data actionable for the merchants?
We do that with our returning team, our analytics team, and we constantly are asking ourselves, okay, there is a lot of data, but it also should have been actionable, right? Because what I said, data is a hard term to get your head around, and you don't want to do everything with data, but we see that we do that with the returning team, with the analytics team, and we do that with in our panel. Every month there is a new update, and we try to figure out, hey, what's really interesting to see, right? We are now monitoring the return reasons, and for a lot of brands that are great learnings to see, hey, if I know exactly the true reason, also make it more tailor-made so they can leave a comment instead of having a drop-down menu. And if you analyze that, you can really make it more efficient and way better. So yeah, we do that with smart people at Sendcloud.
Maybe it's time, or maybe there are questions from the audience to one of these 3 guys here on the couch. Yeah.
It's a question for Sendcloud. Data is really important, and the one thing we're still missing in the platform is the return reason per product. And what is the reason that's not implemented yet?
That's a really good question. That's also really confrontation, right? I'm gonna text my operation team. No, yeah, we are constantly moving forward, and it's nice to have some feedback. What we just build in are also return rules, so we try to make it a bit more tailor-made in the front end with return rules, so you can say, hey, I want to have a certain item name excluded, always excluded out of the return portal, so people can never return a certain product, and per country. But it's a really good comment that we include that as well. So we find multiple ways to upgrade the whole analytics part. So that's a good one. So maybe it's cool to exchange some contacts and to set you up with a cool customer success manager.
Okay, would be great.
Thanks for the feedback.
Is there another question? Yeah.
Hey, this is for Klaviyo. I definitely agree that SMS is going to be a big way to reach customers or loyal customers in general. But do you think there's a possibility you can reach, like here in the Netherlands, it's still not that popular, but once we get over that hump, do you think it's going to be possible to target them without having to be a promotional ad or just a promotional message in general? Because it's always nice rewarding your loyalty, but not your loyal customers. But it's not always possible for every for every brand or company. So do you think SMS is inherently dependent on promotions and sales and loyalty rewards, or?
For me, yeah. Absolutely not. I think you've touched upon the fact that it can be used for a number of different uses. We have an integration with Gorgeous, for example, so when it comes to customer care, but it's also helpful for like transactional messages or updates on fulfillment. And something that we do within Yotpo is actually SMS has a 99% open rate, and 90% of it is open within 3 minutes of being received. So if you use that channel to collect reviews, you're actually going to collect more review content than if you were to do it just via email. So there's a number of other different ways in which you can use SMS alongside the promotional stuff.
Oh, that sounds good. And do you think a brand can still show its personality, or the brand just ethos, or just the identifiers through SMS, like emails? Because like with emails, you have way more customization, while a message is just a block of text, or maybe a block of text attached to an image.
Yeah, there's definitely ways you can do that. I think we have a big library of kind of templates of messages that you can send within the platform, and the goal would then be to change that into your own language. The other couple of things that I think you could do is by making sure that your messaging is personalized and relevant, because that shows as a brand that you put thought into making sure that that message carries value to the customer. And the final thing that we're seeing being increasingly common is to use it as a channel for updates on things like charitable initiatives or things that are part of your ethos as a business. It's a message that you can make sure that your customer reads. So as long as you point to something that's like inherently you as a company, it can be used for that as well.
Is there another question? Yeah.
And so most of the SMS questions have been going to Yotpo, but Klaviyo also has SMS as well. And but this, I guess, is to both of you. Like, have you seen a lot of like complaints or spam complaints that come from SMS as compared to your email communication or other communication forms?
I can start. I think SMS inherently is very high intent. You don't receive an SMS unless you've opted in, and even then, it's obviously an extra step to then receive that. So you have to confirm it. So in terms of complaints and how you're leveraging it, obviously it starts with just having a really clean database of everybody who's opted in, and making sure that everything your team is working with is accurate. So having all that data there in front of you is obviously really important. So in terms of spam complaints, obviously it's going to vary by client, by how mature their email and SMS program are. But generally speaking, I think if you are doing SMS and email correctly, again, it's very high intent, so there's a lot of interest. If somebody opts in, then they obviously want to hear from you. The type of content you send out should be relevant. It can't just be a blast promotion every day. And obviously, I think that's where you talk to, when it comes to support desk type integrations and other elements of just having a conversation, you can create a lot of value with that too. So I don't know. I think that basically encourages the right kind of behavior, but I think it starts with just like you would with any other channel, being smart about it and not blasting your whole list every day.
Agreed. To add to that as well, like one of the best practices that we suggest that's pretty simple is just include instructions on how you can opt out. It's a very personal form of communication. I don't think you're legally required to do it in every message, but why not, right? You don't want someone receiving a message that they don't want to receive. We also provide some visibility in the form of data on unsubscription rates. So keeping your fingers on the pulse as to those rates and how they go up or down compared to your messaging is how you can kind of limit the number of complaints or the negative sentiment that might come from getting that wrong.
Is there an other question? Yes.
It's for Klaviyo. How do you opt in people for SMS? You do that via an email campaign?
So we have it opt in at checkout with Shopify, which is a recently launched update to that integration. So yes, you can opt into SMS at checkout. Other various ways to do it. There's a sign-up form. So we do have forms native in Klaviyo too, so you can opt into SMS there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I think that was the last question for today. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. So before everyone runs to the bar for a beer or a wine, yeah, I would like to thank everyone here at Molly's office in the Founders Club for attending. Also, everyone in the stream for watching. It has been a great day. Thanks to all the partners who supported with organizing the event, the Ask Phill team who helped with us, and of course, everyone speaking today. So thanks a lot. If you were inspired, that's great to hear. If you have questions, definitely ask them during the drinks or send us an email. Thanks a lot, and we hope to see you next year and preferably sooner.